One of the oddest moments in the WWE's corporate history was when the company had to get the F out, changing its initials from WWF to the WWE. However, what were the details behind this name change? How did the World Wildlife Fund get the WWF to change its entire library and never use the name again? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at Today I Learned Why the WWF Became the WWE. The entity known as World Wrestling Entertainment has gone through a number of names during its operation by various members of the McMahon family, with Jess McMahon originally promoting wrestling under the name Capital Sports during its affiliation with the National Wrestling Alliance. Jess's son Vincent James McMahon took over operations and found much success with NWA World Heavyweight Champion Buddy Rogers. The problem was that McMahon used Rogers in his Northeast promotion so much that other NWA members were growing frustrated as the champion was supposed to tour all members' territories. This led to McMahon forming the Worldwide Wrestling Federation and anointing Buddy Rogers as the WWF champion. In 1979, McMahon dropped a W from the name, making it the more manageable World Wrestling Federation, a name that would last over 2 decades. According to Tim Hornbaker's book Capital Revolution, the maneuver made sense in terms of advertising and future implementation of promotional logos and trademarks. As the WWF's popularity skyrocketed with the spread of Hulkamania and other popular stars, the WWF initials became synonymous with professional wrestling in the minds of many people, much as people use Kleenex when they refer to any tissue or Reynolds wrap for any aluminum foil. That's exactly the effect Vince McMahon was looking for, which is why people were shocked when the company started an advertising campaign announcing it was going to get the F out, changing the WWF to the WWE. What had happened and why was the WWF changing its name? Founded in 1961, the animal rights organization the World Wildlife Fund was established to provide funding to animal rights groups deemed worthy of funding. Over time, the agency has expanded its mission statement, and in 1986 it was renamed the World Wildlife Fund for Nature, all the while keeping its WWF acronym. Things became tense when the World Wildlife Fund sought to limit the World Wrestling Federation's use of the WWF initials. The animal rights group persuaded Vince McMahon to sign an agreement where he would continue using the name World Wrestling Federation but refrain from using the WWF acronym. The 1994 agreement stated that the WWF would take steps to notify advertisers, merchandise partners, and marketing agencies about the status quo. There was an exception in the agreement for occasional uses of the WWF acronym. For example, the occasional use of initials orally, but only in the English language during Titan Sports Entertainment events presented in any language, whether pre-recorded or live, or whether televised or not, including in the storylines, interviews, comments, introductions, and promotions of such events, etc. For example, the current WWF champion. Provided that, Titan will use its best efforts not to use the initials orally in scripted manner, including storylines, comments, introductions, or promotions. There were also exceptions made for the wrestling logo used prior to the agreement, an agreement that would complicate things further after the matter went to court, and the wrestling empire counted the lights for the conservation agency. One such exception regulated the use of WWF when it came to certain uses in the United States. This agreement shall not apply to United States of America as to the oral use of the initials in relations to goods. However, this agreement shall apply to the United States of America in relation to the printed, written, visual, or other uses of the initials upon otherwise in relation to goods made or offered for sale by Titan or its licensees, or the use of the initials in any manner in connection with the solicitation of charitable donations. Otherwise, the rights of Titan and the fund in the United States of America shall only be subject to that certain letter agreement between Titan and the World Wildlife Fund. The 1994 agreement seemed to resolve any possible disagreements. However, some believe Vince never intended to honor the agreement. Rumor has it, McMahon reluctantly signed the agreement because his wrestling empire was on the ropes and he didn't need another lawsuit following the federal government's unsuccessful attempt to prosecute him for criminal distribution of steroids. This wouldn't surprise anyone familiar with anecdotes of wrestlers being told by Vince McMahon that contracts aren't worth the paper they're printed on. As the WWF enjoyed a resurgence during the Attitude Era, McMahon allegedly ignored the agreement, using the WWF initials and logo wherever he wanted. Fans from this time may recall going online and typing in WWF with an equal chance of seeing a panda or the World Wrestling Federation logo. As the holder of the trademark WWF, the World Wildlife Fund was obligated to defend itself against other parties encroaching on their intellectual property, or they risked losing government protection. Finally, the folks with the friendly panda went to court, looking to establish control of their property. The World Wildlife Fund prevailed, initially obtaining an injunction that prevented McMahon's now incorporated wrestling enterprise from using the WWF acronym. An appeal to the London Court of Appeals failed, and McMahon had no choice, beginning a publicity campaign, ending the use of the name World Wrestling Federation and the use of the WWF acronym for it. In a 2002 CNET article, the World Wildlife Fund's representative discussed the ruling, saying, "We're obviously very pleased by the appellate court decision upholding the earlier court decision that confirms our rights to our initials," said Michael Ross, spokesman for the World Wildlife Fund. "We look forward to a speedy resolution in this matter as possible." Ross said the wrestling group had breached the agreement countless thousands of times. The International Conservation Group said it registered WWF in 1961 when it was founded. Now the organization, which aims to protect the world wildlife and wildlands, expects the wrestling group to refrain from using WWF as a domain name and for selling merchandise with the acronym. The name change proved to be the easiest part of the transition. From there, the WWE had to go and carefully review its past use of WWF, with some things permissible and others strictly prohibited. Following the name change, the use of WWF's scratch logo became prohibited on all WWE properties. Additionally, past references to the WWF trademark and initials in specified circumstances became censored. Despite the litigation, WWE was still permitted use of the original WWF logo, which was used from 1979 through 1994 and had been explicitly exempted under the 1994 agreement, as well as the similar new WWF Generation logo, which was used from 1994 through 1998. Furthermore, the company could still make use of the full World Wrestling Federation and World Wrestling Federation Entertainment names without consequence. In 2003, WWE won a limited decision to continue marketing certain classic video games from THQ and Jakks Pacific that contained the WWF scratch logo. However, the packaging on those games had all WWF references replaced with WWE. The last WWF pay-per-view was the United Kingdom exclusive Insurrection from 4th May 2002. It would seem Vince McMahon had once again let his arrogance get the best of him, making him think he could do whatever he wanted. As we'll discuss in a future Today I Learned video, Vince McMahon tried to promote Harley Race as the king of wrestling in Memphis, despite Jerry the King Lawler having used the nickname for many years. McMahon lost in Memphis, but that was nothing compared to the WWF/WWE debacle, one of the few times McMahon has lost in court, but one which will still stick in his craw. After the appeal was denied, the Wall Street Journal noted the WWF got beat by a panda. Nonetheless, McMahon would get the last laugh. Despite his corporation being forced to change its name, Vince McMahon had the last laugh when the World Wildlife Fund went too far with interpreting the court's ruling, seeking to stop the sale of THQ/Jakks WWE video games. According to a 2003 article in WWE.com, around Thanksgiving, the funds actually convinced a judge in England to stop the sales of the games and declare that THQ/Jakks and WWE would be in contempt of court if the games were sold. The fund did that in a proceeding we're not even a party to, and the sale of the game stopped, said Jerry McDevitt, WWE's attorney. THQ/Jakks appealed the decision, and the WWF intervened in the appeal. After hearing the argument, a 3-judge panel reversed the trial judge, repudiated all the fund's arguments, and ordered the funds to pay the legal costs of both THQ, Jakks, and the WWE, an amount likely to exceed $100,000. Commenting on the decision, McDevitt noted that the Court of Appeals of England expressly stated that the funds had not shown any damage whatsoever caused them by the sale of the video games, and that the funds did not have exclusive rights to the initials WWF. We have said all along that the funds have not and could not be damaged by anything my client has ever done, and it's a matter of record that the funds have never come forth with proof of any monetary damage. Since the 2002 change to status quo, the WWE has been using its WWF name and logo in the network and home video, leading to questions how this came about. In 2012, the WWE and WWF entered into a new agreement by which it could resume using the WWF scratch logo in archival footage, using archival footage containing the WWF initials when spoken or displayed. However, the WWE was still barred from using the WWF initials or logo in any new, original footage, packaging, or advertising. Both the WWF and WWE seemed happy with this agreement, and it's led to fans being able to enjoy older footage without WWF being muted or the logo being blurred out. But there you have it, guys, the reason why the WWF was forced to become the WWE. What are your thoughts on this bizarre piece of WWE history? Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.